It's onion harvest time. Hey friends, welcome back to Mustard Seed Homesteading. My name is Megan, and if you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by because today we are finally going to harvest all of the onions out of the GreenStalks as well as the raised beds. So what we're going to do first is harvest all of the onions in the backyard garden, and then we're going to make our way down to the driveway. Now what I decided to do this year versus last year is I added a GreenStalk to my backyard garden where it gets sun, but not as much sun as my driveway. So we're going to actually harvest that GreenStalk first, and then we're going to make our way over to the wood beds where I have onions in there that have been planted since the winter time. I do want to quickly mention though, the GreenStalk in my backyard garden was planted with onion starts later than the ones on my driveway, so they're not as big. However, next year I do plan to plant onions again in the GreenStalks on the driveway as well as the one back here, all at the same time. I also want to quickly mention before we get started, I harvested last year the most beautiful onions out of my GreenStalks. I will show a quick little video of the onions that were harvested out of the GreenStalks on my driveway. GreenStalks is by far my favorite way to grow onions as well as garlic. And so I'm determined to grow as many as I can in my GreenStalk, which is why I added one in my backyard, and I have 4 designated GreenStalks on the driveway. All right, let's go harvest. So here is the beautiful blackberry GreenStalk that I had added onions in months ago. And what I noticed is even though I planted these late, I'm still getting onions, and I feel very redundant in when I say this, but I love getting every size onion from large to medium to small because they're good for so many reasons. So with this GreenStalk, I'm probably going to be getting a lot of small onions, which I absolutely love getting when I harvest onions. And by the way, I just want to mention, I'm going to be using GreenStalk seed starting kits for harvesting, which I absolutely love using this because not only is it really big, but it has a handle and it has holes here for breathing or if I want to rinse anything out. So I just wanted to quickly show that to you because I haven't used them for harvesting and I really need to start doing that, and that's what we're going to use today. Now, just for time's sake, I'm going to harvest a couple on camera and then I'm just going to get the rest because we have 4 GreenStalks on the driveway. And as always, I'm filming in the evening because it has just been way too hot to be out here during the day, and I can't get out here in the morning time. So we're going to harvest a couple and then I want to hurry up and make my way down to the driveway. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this one. This one is actually supposed to be a purple onion and it's a short day. A lot of the onions that I planted are short days in the back. Let's see. Oh, that's a pretty good size, friends. That's like a little golf ball. And again, I planted this much later. I had planted this on 3/26, that's what it says. And I know that I planted the other ones over there a lot earlier than that. All right, let's do this one. And this is the intermediate. I did intermediate and short day because where my zone is, I can get away with both. And I actually do like doing both of them. So this is the white and planted 3/26. Okay, so let's go ahead and harvest this one. Well, that's a nice size, very nice size. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest the rest of them. Look at all these onions. That one right there is probably the biggest. Now, most of the larger ones were on the top tier, but I got a couple of good size ones in the lower tiers as well, but as I'm dropping them. But this is a win. I'm very impressed, especially with the fact that I planted them so much later. So those are all the onions that were growing in the backyard garden in the blackberry GreenStalk, and they were planted much later. I am incredibly impressed, and I'm probably more than likely going to dedicate this GreenStalk to onions. And I also want to mention that I did start 2 trays of mostly leeks, a couple of really miniature size onions. They're supposed to be very small. They're called, I think, white crystal wax. I'll put the correct name at the very bottom. But I started 2 trays, and what I'm going to be doing probably towards the end of July-ish is plant the blackberry with those, as well as the 4 GreenStalks on the driveway, because if you had seen, I think it was on one of my backyard garden tours, or it might have been GreenStalk, I can't remember now, but I harvested these gorgeous leeks that grew through the summer into the fall, and I was harvesting them, I think, even going into winter time. So that's what I plan to do. And then of course I will just go ahead and plant my onions in them again next year. Now let's go ahead and harvest the onions in the wood beds. So I feel really behind with my 2 wood beds because usually by this time I have my green beans growing in here, but it's okay. I did start some green beans over in some grow bags on the other end of the garden, and I'm not in a huge hurry to get some, and I have plenty of time to grow them. The most important thing was my cucumbers. So those have all been started and they're growing so good. Friends, look at these. Look at that cute little cucumber. Look at, there's 2 there. There's 1 right there. And these are my favorite. And then there's 1 over here. This is the Piccolini F1, and then the Poniente F1 is on the other side. So again, for sake of time, I'm just gonna go ahead and harvest probably 2 on camera because my main focus is to get the ones in the GreenStalks on the driveway because they are the largest onions that are growing. Although I will say, I don't know, this one, and there's 1 over there that is looking really big. But let's go ahead and harvest this one. Absolutely gorgeous, friends. Look at how big that is. Size of my hand. Now, the majority of these onions, I believe, are short day, and I did plant these in the winter time, probably towards, I think, the end of winter. Of course, I didn't write a date for these because I think these are leftovers, and I usually like to plant onions on the sides here during the winter time or beginning spring because they are phenomenal as companion plants. When I put my broccoli and cauliflower in here, they do so good. So I like to put them right here. I guess I did not bother to write the date. All right, let's go ahead and grab this one. That's just beautiful. All right, so here's the harvest of all the onions in this 1 wood bed. Not only, as I said earlier, did they serve as a companion plant, but now I get to enjoy them, dry them out, and either chop them up and freeze them like I usually like to do, or eat some fresh. All right, now we have the intermediate onion. So I think the other side, as I said, were short day. These actually look quite bigger, and these are the white onions, and look at, I put a date. So this was actually planted in December, and I'm harvesting them in July. That's kind of crazy, but they're still gonna be good. Let me show you. This one I think looks like the largest one. We're gonna go ahead and harvest this together. Yeah, this is a beauty, and it's not squishy, so they're good. That's what I love about onions. In my experience, what I've noticed, even though I don't harvest them right away and they get to be this way, they're still good. They don't get mushy on me. I mean, I don't want to wait too long. However, I was waiting to harvest a lot of these onions because the weather's been crazy and I've just been really busy. So I'm just grateful that what I've learned in my garden is that when I do go ahead and harvest, or I take a while to harvest them, they don't go bad on me. Now, if I were to keep these in here all summer going into fall, that might be a different story, but so far it's worked for me. All right, let's harvest this one too. I mean, these are good sizes. Wow. Very good size. Look at all the onions just from this one bed. All of these are from this bed. These are from the other bed, and then this is from the backyard GreenStalk. This is a lot of onions just from 2 beds and 1 GreenStalk. So now what we're going to do is go to the GreenStalks on the driveway. Now we are on the driveway with all of my GreenStalks, and I just have to show you, look at how gorgeous these are. Now, the ones last year, it was 2 that looked like this, and they were so big that the top reservoir was popping up. Like, it grew so much that there was no room for this to stay attached. They were massive. Now, here's what I'm noticing this year as opposed to last year though. While not every single pocket has an onion in them, and that happened last year and I think even the year before, and I'm fine with that. Not every pocket is going to make it. But what I'm noticing a little bit different this year is there's a little bit more consistency in really good size onions, as opposed to last year I had a lot of good sizes. I had 2 massively big ones, but there was a lot of medium to small, which I was fine with. And it lasted, all those onions lasted. I actually still have some in the freezer. It lasted a really long time. But I'm just noticing more consistency this year of good size onions, especially at the top, and a couple of tiers throughout the GreenStalk. So here's what I want to do. I want to harvest a couple on camera, and then I'm going to go ahead and just harvest the rest of them, because I'll be here for quite a long time if I showed every single onion being harvested on camera. But I also brought my tape measure. Now this year I'm actually using a cloth one. Last year I didn't, because I didn't have one close by. I just grabbed whatever I could. But the onion that I grew, the largest one last year, was about 16 inches in circumference. I don't know if we'll have that again this year, but we'll see. So let's go ahead and harvest. I also want to quickly mention, because I don't want to forget, these 2 GreenStalks back here are the short day onions, and I do 3 different varieties. And then the ones next to me are the intermediate onions. And it looks like I planted them on March 1st. So 25 days later is when I planted the blackberry, which you saw what I harvested out of there. So that's not too bad. So let's go ahead and see what we got. And I do want to point out, that is the only onion that hasn't fallen. Usually what I like to do is wait for these to fall, and I was waiting. That's the other reason why I'm taking a long time to harvest these, because I was waiting for this one to fall and this one. I seem to not be able to point and look at the camera at the same time. Right back there, this one right there. I was waiting for that to fall. So that's the only one that hasn't fallen, but I can't keep waiting. So we're just gonna harvest. All right, let's go ahead and get this one. This is the intermediate yellow onion. Ah, that's a good size. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna measure this one just to see. See that? It's about 9 inches around. Not too bad. I feel like I need to do this one and this one on camera, the one that didn't fall, as well as there's one over here that is looking really big, and I want to harvest that one too on camera. I really wish I could just harvest all of them on camera, but like I said, we'd be here all day. All right, I got my tape measure. Let's go ahead and harvest this one. Oh, look at that beauty. Isn't she gorgeous? Oh, it smells so good. All right, let's go ahead and measure this cutie pie. And let's see what we got. Okay, so look at that. Oh, about almost 10 inches. All right, let's harvest the stubborn onion. I'm gonna call it stubborn because it wouldn't fall on me. Let's see. Now, last year, the roots were so long, it was actually hard for me, which this one kind of feels like it's a little hard. They were actually really hard last year to harvest. Yeah, see, this is doing what last year did. You see that? Because the roots are just, that just goes to show you how amazing GreenStalks are, because a lot of times when I harvest anything out of the GreenStalks, the roots just look absolutely gorgeous, and that just shows me how healthy they are growing in the GreenStalk. Now, I don't think the width of this is probably going to be bigger than that 10 inches over there, so I just wanted to harvest this one on camera with you guys. So she's a beauty, and I'm very happy. And oh my goodness, friends, I wish you could smell this. It is just divine. I'm gonna try one more because I think it's actually bigger than the other one. And this is actually a short day. So let me check. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and harvest everything, and I'll show you all of what we harvested at the end. Okay, this one's kind of a short, kind of fatter one, but look at how gorgeous that is. Very pretty. Let's go ahead and measure this one. Now, if I find one that's bigger than almost 10 inches, I will show you on camera, but I think, yeah, I think what we got, this one's kind of almost 10 inches too. So I think what we got is pretty good. Now, last year, those were huge, which I'm fine if I don't get them that big again. The whole idea is to harvest enough to last for me and my family for a whole year, so I don't have to go and buy them. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead now and harvest everything, and then I'll show you at the end. All right, so I harvested everything. You can see my hands are full of soil. I have to go rinse it real quick. But I found the onion that is my biggest this year. It's not 16 inches, and that's okay, but it is almost 11. I want to say maybe 10 and a half right there. Let's see. See that one? So beautiful. Oh my goodness, friends. This is such a joy. I can't even begin to tell you. Onions and garlic are staples in my home, so if I can grow them in the GreenStalks like this, and it doesn't take up a lot of space, that's a winner. All right, so here's our overall harvest. Now, these are the short day onions in the 2 GreenStalks on the driveway. And then these are the 2 GreenStalks for the intermediate onions. And friends, I am so excited. And of course, our onions from the wood beds, as well as the GreenStalk that was in the backyard. Even harvesting in the evening, I am just, I am melting out here, and it's crazy how hot it is. But instead of me lifting up these baskets or trays of onions to show you, I just grabbed a couple of really beautiful onions that I harvested from the GreenStalk to show you. And friends, just look at these. I mean, absolutely stunning. Now, these are some of my biggest onions. I didn't grab all of them. There was actually a lot of white onions that I harvested out of the wood beds that were really big too. But this right here is why I garden in GreenStalks, because for the last, I would say 3 years, I have been really impressed with what I've harvested out of them. Last year absolutely blew me away because of how large the onions got, but I am now noticing consistency. And that's what I care about when I'm putting my time and energy into gardening. And I just feel in my own personal experience that the time and energy that I put into my GreenStalks has been worth everything, which is why I'm going to be growing onions and garlic in my GreenStalks every year, because they just impress me and they blow me away each time. All right, I wanted to quickly show you the onion with some of the layers peeled back so that you could actually see how gorgeous it is, the roots. I mean, look at that, grew in a GreenStalk. And I will say what I really like about growing onions and garlic in particular with the GreenStalk is it has its own pocket. So it has its own space to grow as big as it wants to. And I just feel that that is what gives me such a great harvest. Plus, being able to grow so much in a small space is a huge bonus for me too. I do want to quickly show you the purple onion though. Look at this beauty. Isn't she gorgeous? Now, last year I harvested the largest purple onion that I've ever harvested, ever. And I didn't harvest a really big purple one, but I harvested enough to last me for a while. I can stick this in my cucumber summer salad. Oh, I cannot wait. But I just had to show you this color because it is just so stunning. I did want to quickly say before I end the video that I literally was not taught how to grow onions. I didn't have anybody here to show me how to do anything. I pretty much, with determination, and I'd probably throw a little bit of stubbornness in there because I can be very stubborn. If I want to learn something, I will do everything I can until I get a result that I want. But this has literally been through just learning how I can by either YouTube or just looking things up and then just doing it. And even now, I don't know everything about growing onions, but so far what I am doing, at least in the last 2 to 3 years, is working for me. So I do plan to keep doing what I am doing. But I just want to encourage you that if you don't know how to do something, or you do, but there's been failed attempts and things that have just not gone your way, it's okay. Just keep trying and just keep doing it. And even with today's harvest and even the harvest in the past, I didn't harvest onions out of every pocket, and I'm okay with that, because as long as I can harvest enough to keep me from having to run to the grocery store for onions, that's okay with me, and that makes me happy. Well, friends, I am so glad that you all stopped by, because it means so much to me to be able to share this journey with you, because I don't want to just get on this camera and say, oh, look what I did, and oh, do it this way and you'll have success. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is share my journey. I want you to see my many failed attempts. I want you to see, oh, her onions are not all big and she didn't harvest out of every pocket, or, you know, she didn't get it right this time, because this is really what gardening is all about. It's about showing the honest truth of what it is to garden, the failed attempts, the trying to figure things out and keep trying until finally I get a win. And when I get those wins, I love to share them with you, because that's something to look forward to. At least for me, I know that with all the failed attempts or things that I'm doing that don't go the way that I want them to go in my garden, I know that at some point, if I keep doing something, or I keep trying or change it up, or whatever the case may be, that I'm going to eventually get something, and then I'll be able to continue to do that every year. And my hope is that when I share everything that's going on in this garden, whether it's fails or wins, that it inspires you and encourages you to keep going regardless of the results. And I want you to know how much I greatly appreciate every single one of you. And I really want you to know how much you encourage me through your comments. It means so much to me, and I want to say thank you. And I also want you to remember this, friends. I want you to be encouraged, stay encouraged, and I want you to always stay inspired. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye. Remember, you got this, friends.